Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be servicing my Toyota Hilux as we're off on a 2000k trip to Bourke where we're going to be doing a stormco trip. Today we're going to be servicing the fuel filter, the oil, the gearbox and the diff. So we're going to start off with the engine oil. First I like to check the level of the current oil and the condition. So you may be able to see when this focuses that the engine oil is still at the full mark after about 6,000 Ks. I like to change it around the 5 to 7,000 K range. In this particular engine, after 450,000 Ks, it still doesn't use oil between services. So first up, we're going to jump under, put the tray under, crack the bolt for the sump, and let that drain while we work on the filter. Now in my particular situation, I currently have bash plates that have the hole in the wrong location and it drains a little weird. Now we're going to let that drain while we empty replace the oil filter. So for this job of replacing the oil filter, we're going to use a 3/4 inch drive with a little belt which goes over our filter and tightens up and loosens it. So all you have to do is to slip this over. So as you can probably see down here a little bit easier, I've got the belt wrapped around the filter with a 3/4 inch drive, and all you simply have to do is tighten it up. It rotates the filter. Now that it's hand tight, all you have to do just loosen it off. Now before it's too loose and starts leaking oil, we're going to get our new one ready. So for this factory dirt turbo diesel Hilux, it uses the Z334. We'll kind of reach in here, quickly grab it, put it up the right way. We grab our new one. And we can nicely thread it on, making sure that we don't cross thread the threads. So now we're going to move on to the fuel filter. To do that, it requires the removal of the plug at the bottom of the fuel filter, and oftentimes I like to remove the bolts on the housing of it so that you can remove the filter a lot easier. So as you can see on the bottom of the fuel filter housing, there's a water separator sensor. Now all you have to do is to unscrew it, and then your sensor will come out. So to remove the big plastic plug on the bottom of the fuel filter, I like to use a big pair of multi-grips, as oftentimes it's tight from the many kilometers that it gets put on. Now once it's loose, you should be able to undo it by hand. Now I'll move on to taking the housing off. Sometimes these can be quite hard to get off, and one of the things I like to do is just take off the hoses so that I can flip the housing completely up. Now, one of the things I like to do when I change my fuel filters, I'd like to grab a clean container and tip the fuel that's in the filter so that I can see if there's any contaminants in the fuel. And it also stops fuel going everywhere when I take the filter off. So when we pulled the fuel filter out, I don't know whether you can see down in here, I'll try and get it, but there's a little bit of rubbish that was in the bottom of the fuel filter, so it was very much needed and due. No water, but I like to flip the housing back on its mounting bolts, and we can use the same tool that we used to take the oil filter off on our fuel filter. Now they can take a bit of effort. So I don't know whether you can see, but the hose clamp that goes onto here and the hose clamp that goes onto here are the hoses I like to remove. So now we'll move on to filling the engine oil. So to do that, we just need a funnel and the engine oil, but don't forget the plug in the bottom of the sump. So we'll go tighten that up and we'll fill it up. So we're just going to grab ourselves a nice clean funnel. We just want to take off our oil filter cap. Now sometimes these can be particularly tight. So all we want to do, take the cap off, put it to one side, put our funnel in. And this particular time I'm using some 15W40. And we just want to put a few litres in and then we'll check the dipstick. Now we just wait a little bit for the oil to run down and then we'll check the dipstick. So checking the dipstick, we'll just bring it out. Now it looks like we're a little low still, it's just on the bottom of the dipstick. So we'll just replace some more oil. And just let that settle back down so that we can check on the level again. So I'm just going to check the gearbox oil levels and also the rear diff oil levels as we're about to go on a big 2000k trip. And I know the gearbox has been leaking a little bit, but I think I fixed that problem a little while but didn't top it up. So to check a gearbox on these, it requires a 24mm spanner, but for my case I had to weld a nut on it as it was stripped out by the previous owner. So a 19 for me, and for the rear diff it's also a 24. So if you want to service your gearbox and your diff, get a 24mm spanner. You just uncrack it, undone, unscrew it, and we have plenty of oil. So that's good. It's no longer been leaking. So we'll just move back to the rear diff and check the levels on that. And for this one here, it's a 17 in my case, usually a 24. So we'll dive under here. As you can probably see, it's been leaking a little bit on the pinion seal, which I do have a new one. Maybe that'll become in another video, how to change that. So all we want to do is give it a bit of tension and pop it, and we'll check it. So I just removed the bung from the rear diff, and unfortunately the GoPro went flat, but I removed it, stuck my little pinky finger in the little hole and just measured to make sure that the oil was just below the plug level, so that it wasn't overflowing, wasn't too low and causing damage to the rear diff. Well, thanks for watching as I service my Hilux ready in preparation to go to Stormco. I'll be recording my trip out to Stormco, so watch for those videos when they come. If you have any questions about servicing your vehicle, I'm no mechanic, but I may be able to help. Comment down below. Also, I enjoy adventuring as much as I enjoy adventuring with God. And my trip out to Stormco is one to share God with the people out there. So if you're going on a trip, overseas, Australia, let us know where you're heading. Thanks for watching.